Welcome back to Keep Your Greebrew, and today we are putting the brew in Greebrew, starting with Exodus chapter 25, verses 1 through 3. Let's read these verses together. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael, vayichu li terumah. Meet kol ish asher yidavenu libo. Tikhu et terumati. V'zot ha-terumah asher tikhu meitam zachav v'chesef unachoshet. Okay, you might want to pause the video at this point to do your own translation, and when you get back, I'll go through the translation and parsing. Okay, I'm going to do a translation, and after that we'll parse the verbs. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel, so that they may take for me a contribution." Notice the athnach here. So we're going to pause at this point. This is the end of a clause. And me'et is the start of a new clause. So from all, or from every man who his heart moves, urges, or prompts him, you shall take my contribution. And this is the contribution which you shall take from them. Again, notice the athnach. So we're going to imagine that there's a colon here. Gold and silver and bronze. Okay, let's parse the verbs. Vayidaber, peel imperfect 3ms WCS. It's pretty straightforward. Lemor, cal infinitive construct plus lamet preposition, also quite straightforward. Daber, peel imperative 2ms, pretty straightforward. This is where it starts to get tricky. V'yikhu. This is a cal imperfect 3MP WCJ. The first question you might have is, I know this is from the root lakach. What happened to the lamet? Well, what happens for lakach is that it acts like a pei nun verb. And what happens in pei nun verbs, we're going to see one later on, is that the pei nun, the first consonant, which is a nun, it doesn't like being in a syllable final position. And so what it does is it assimilates into the next consonant, or it disappears altogether. And so the lamet isn't here because it's acting like a pei nun verb. And you'd also notice that this is a vav conjunctive, a vayiktol. And so I'm translating this as a vayiktol of purpose, so that they may take for me a contribution. Moving on to yidavenu. This is a cal imperfect 3ms plus 3ms suffix. So you can see the nun suffix at the end, enu. And over here, you notice that there's a dagesh forte in the dalet. That's because this is a pei nun verb, nadav. And the pei nun, the first consonant, which is a nun, it doesn't like being in a syllable final position. And so it assimilated into the next consonant, the dalet. Tikhu. We've already gone through vayikhu, so this is easy. It's cal imperfect 2MP. And you have another one over here. So what are some takeaways we can glean from these verses? First of all, what we see is that the tabernacle would be constructed from contributions made from the heart. And in the context of the Exodus, this would be a grateful response to God's salvation and provision as he brought them out from Egypt. Now, the original readers of this passage wouldn't have had to make another tabernacle, but they could glean these principles as well, that they were meant to serve the Lord and contribute to the Lord from the heart as a grateful response to his salvation and provision. So what's the New Testament connection here? We don't have a physical temple anymore. God's temple is the body of Christ. So our contributions as a grateful response to God's salvation and provision should go towards building up the body of Christ, whether that's in our material giving or in our service, or even through our building funds to the extent that the building helps to support the ministry of the word that builds up the body of Christ. Okay, that's all for today. Do leave a comment if you have a question or if you'd like to raise an additional point, and hope to see you again real soon.